When black cats prowl and pumpkins gleam, may luck be yours on Halloween. A very seasonable quote if you ask me. But sometimes those who don't have the Halloween spirit may not be so lucky. You see, Halloween is a time of candy, scares, and even dressing up as a frightful creature. There are so many creatures and so many things that go bump in the night. Just to name a few: vampires, ghosts, witches, demons, and clowns. Sure, both kids and adults enjoy the season equally, but there's no denying that there is danger among the neighborhoods. Most of the time, there are stories of trick-or-treaters being the ones that get tricked, but there are tales where it's the other way around. It was October 31st. Among a very peaceful and quiet neighborhood came a beautiful sunset over the horizon. In a fall weather of orange, yellow, and brown, children are seen with backpacks walking home from school, eagerly waiting for what's to come. The streets were covered with petals of orange leaves that fell from tall trees that the branches looked like claws. All the houses in the neighborhood were covered in Halloween decorations. There were lit jack-o'-lanterns on every porch, animatronics that looked like ghouls and goblins on the front lawns, and string lights that had pumpkin-shaped bulbs which gave an orange glow when it's wrapped around the bushes. Parents are also seen coming back from the supermarket doing last-minute Halloween shopping. Everyone seems like they're going to have a great night this year. Well, almost everyone. You see, every positive has a negative, and that negative is a curmudgeon who lives in a house with no lights, no jack-o'-lanterns, not even a bowl of candy in sight. This curmudgeon is named Carl Bradford, a 75-year-old man who lives in his house all alone with not a care in the world. You see, Bradford is not very fond with the celebration of the Devil's Night. He doesn't enjoy the sound of kids' laughter and hyperactive behavior on his front lawn, when they're ringing their doorbell or knocking his door all for pieces of sweets. He most definitely doesn't enjoy the sight of his house being teepeed or egged by immature teenagers. So, as you can see, he's not very happy about tonight.
These damn kids, always disturbing me when I'm trying to relax.
While most of the kids in the neighborhood were not disrespectful, Bradford believed that every kid wants to ruin his day. He thinks that everyone is out to get him.
I can never get some peace and quiet, even at this time of night.
So Bradford did some thinking. Since all the children were able to have all the fun, he figured he could have some fun of his own. And so, he decided to go to a store and buy 3 bags of candy of all kinds, going from chocolate bars to lollipops to gummy vampire teeth. Bradford bought all the candy that kids love. He was ready for Halloween night to come. It was Halloween night. Jack-o'-lanterns are lit, animatronics are scaring toddlers, and kids are running through neighborhoods while exclaiming the 3 words at each door. Kids, teenagers, and adults were dressed up in various costumes. Vampires, zombies, mummies, and even fictional characters from movies and TV shows. Every house was decorated to be hauntingly spooky. Everyone seemed like they were having the Halloween spirit, except for one house in particular. Old Mr. Bradford never bothered to put up fancy lights on his house, not even on his small bush. Why, he never even bothered to put a bowl of candy out for trick-or-treaters. He simply didn't do anything at all. He is seen on his recliner pouring all the candy he bought into a big bowl for him to eat. Suddenly, a knock on the door caught his attention. He walks over and opens the door, to see no sight of a child in costume, but a perfectly carved jack-o'-lantern sitting on the steps of his house. There was no surprise that Bradford was not happy about this, but he didn't really show it publicly. Of course, Bradford thought this was another prank from one of the neighborhood kids. So Bradford takes the pumpkin back inside and closes the door behind him. He takes one good look at it, and without hesitation, he smashes it.
Those kids don't know what they're dealing with. I just hope this night ends fast, so I can get a good rest.
That's not very nice.
Bradford looks at the already smashed pumpkin. Nothing but bits and pieces. He then looks outside at all the children going from door to door, collecting sweets from strangers.
I decide to walk to the door and ring the doorbell to give him the chance to redeem himself.
The sound of a doorbell was heard. Bradford, frustrated, walks over to the door and answers it. What he sees in front of him was a tiny figure, and that tiny figure was a little girl. She had an unusual costume. She was wearing a dress that was covered in royal purple, and was wearing an apron around her waist that was white as snow. On her face was a mask, but this wasn't an already existing mask. The mask looked poorly handmade. The mask was distorted and raggedy, with 2 buttons that were used for eyes, and a poorly drawn smile that was used for a mouth. The whole face was just one expression. Those button eyes were so lifeless, but the smile somehow completed the face. She held out her trick-or-treating bag, expecting some sweets. You'd expect a harmless and innocent little girl to get some empathy from an old grouch like Mr. Bradford, but he had a heart of stone. He showed no hesitation and slammed the door on the poor girl's face. She stood outside, empty-handed.
He just closed the door on me. Now, that's not very nice. At the stroke of midnight, I decided it would be nice to send him a message.
As the clock chimes midnight, the children are quietly tucked in their beds. Parents are staying up watching late-night monster movies or getting a good night rest. As soon as all things simmer down, Bradford wakes up from his nap and decides to get ready for bed. He put the bowl of the remaining candy on top of a shelf and went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. What he didn't know was that there was an uninvited guest to make her appearance.
I'm inside the house. Let's hope he enjoys a good old Halloween scare.
By the time old Bradford was done, he didn't expect a little girl with a rough mask and a soulless smile drawn on her face to be standing there, menacingly.
What do you want? I thought I made it clear that I ain't got any candy for you.
I'm not just here for treats, but I'm all about the tricks.
She stood there, tilting her head.
I ought to call the authorities on you.
The lifelessness in her eyes looked back at Bradford's. He started to feel cold and took a few steps back and slowly reached for the phone. The little girl starts reaching something from her bag of tricks. She pulls out a candy bar and hands it over to Bradford. Of course, Bradford was confused by this and was very hesitant that this mysterious girl is in his house offering some candy. Bradford takes the candy bar and unwraps it. It was just a harmless treat. What Bradford didn't know was that there were certain rules in Halloween, and one of the most important rules of all was always check your candy. He drops the candy bar and sways back and forth due to dizziness while trying to reach for the phone. He manages to grab the telephone and quickly dials 911 and looks back at where the girl was standing, discovering that she disappeared. Bradford was concerned and confused, but was too concentrated on listening to the ringing in the phone.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, please come quick. There's a... Hello? Hello? Son of a bitch.
Bradford knew he had to do something. He checked his surroundings. Nothing in plain sight. He looked around once more. No little girl was in sight. The sound of scuttering was heard, but no movement was seen in Bradford's vision. He looked under his table and behind the curtains. He kept searching, hoping to find the girl. Scuttering was heard again. Poor Bradford. He was so used to looking down on others that he didn't look from what was above him. On the ceiling, the girl with the raggedy mask was crawling like an insect. Once Bradford spotted her, she wasn't going to just stay there and do nothing. Oh no, for she realized that the fun was about to begin. She lunged on top of him from the ceiling. Bradford screams as he felt his face was being scratched. Her nails were clawing their way into his skin, leaving trails of blood and marks that replicate a marking of a cat. The raggedy girl was very quick. She scratched any part of his face that didn't have any type of redness or marking. One after another, she just couldn't stop. Bradford was struggling and fighting this little girl, but wasn't able to get her off. He kept screaming and swearing, moving back and forth, shaking his own body, hoping that she'll lose grip on his face. While he didn't hit a wall, he did, however, swing towards a shelf. Objects including books and miniature statues flew from the shelf. The raggedy girl jumps off of Bradford and accomplishes a successful land. Meanwhile, Bradford loses his balance and falls on the floor with the candy pouring from the bowl.
Please stop. I can't take any more of this. What kind of trick-or-treater are you?
Can you keep a dark secret? The thing is, I'm not really like any other trick-or-treater.
But you're just a little girl with a hideous mask. You're just like everyone else. Aren't you?
Sometimes you have to put on a mask to blend in with the rest of the crowd.
With a moment of silence, the girl says this.
It's usually what's under the mask that says a lot about a person.
The look she gave Bradford was very haunting and disturbing. Bradford was out of his wits. All the energy he had drained away. The little girl proceeded to pick up most of the candy that was on the floor and placed it into her bag and left without a trace. Bradford, still shocked, looked around his living room. All his chairs were flipped over. All his books and valuable items were scattered around his floor. Hours turned into days, and days turned into months. Bradford never forgot that night. He kept questioning why she let him live. He felt that maybe she only wanted to scare him with a purpose that made him change of how he acted and how he viewed the world. Whatever it was, Bradford knew what he experienced that night, that one can say that it was most definitely an unfortunate trick.
I disguised myself and became a freak. My private hell is a survival technique. So one night a year, with the moon in its place, can peel off my mask and reveal my true face. On Halloween, I